Hi everyone, if you're watching this online, I'm Adam. I head up the paid media team at RocketMill, and today I wanted to talk about how the way we report can affect the outcome of our campaigns. This is something that you might think you'd be hearing the data team talk about, so I'm probably stepping on some toes here, but I've run it past them and they've given it the thumbs up, so we should be okay. As marketers, whether in-house or agency side, we all need to visualise and understand the performance of our campaigns, and to do this we often use reports and dashboards. Primarily this is so that we can optimise campaigns, see what is or isn't working, and give ourselves the knowledge and insight to improve. At RocketMill, we often use dashboards to share performance with clients, hopefully showing our good work, and to make decisions on what next steps maybe we should take based on performance of previous activity. Now, the numbers on those dashboards are seen as the truth, and that's true, right? We wouldn't lie to clients, would we? So, quick show of hands. Has anyone in the room lied to a client on a report? Reese gets it. The tension in the room there. Most people kept their hands down there. You might want to rethink that answer as we go through this. Reporting's fundamental to the work we do. Has a massive impact on deciding budgets, the future of activity, media planning, tactics, even the types of creative and messaging that we use. And with data-driven marketing, ultimately everything we do can be linked to reporting or performance in some way. And decisions we make using those reports could contribute to the success or failure of our clients' businesses. If we make the wrong decision, performance could decline. It's pretty important to trust what we're looking at. So here's a channel report in analytics showing the performance of typical marketing channels. Covers a variety of channels: paid search, direct, organic search, social, referral, email, etc. And it shows what channels have generated sales, how much revenue, the conversion rate of each of those channels. And I'm not saying that analytics is lying to us, but this is only one version of the truth, in my opinion, and it could be more or less accurate depending on the attribution model that we're using. Attribution models dictate how we judge performance across channels. What row a number falls into can have a huge impact on the perceived performance of a campaign. It can affect whether campaigns are shut down due to perceived poor performance, or whether new budget is signed off and activity is increased for channels where there's perceived good performance. The reports can actually be dangerous in some circumstances. If we overemphasize a channel that had little impact and underemphasize a channel that was truly delivering revenue, we could make poor marketing decisions that could ultimately put a business in danger at the end of the day. Now that might sound a little extreme, but let's walk through an example. Here's some real data from one of our clients' analytics accounts over the last couple of days, showing performance across channels using last click attribution. Now, based on that report, you'd potentially look to put more money into paid search, potentially more efforts into your technical SEO activity. Paid search and organic are performing very well. You might even decide to pause your social activity based on the low amount of revenue and conversions it's generating. Those are all logical decisions made off the back of that table, I would say. You might disagree with that, but I don't think that's too far from the truth. Now let's look at the same performance using a different attribution model. So this time we're comparing it to first click. Paid search suddenly doesn't look as good. Social's actually driving a large number of the sales. Based on that report, you'd have completely different conclusions and make completely different decisions. So you'd probably put more effort into your social activity and maybe turn off your paid search. Ultimately, it's completely flipped to the results. From a paid media point of view, the activity that we run was no different. It's exactly the same. Both reports, are based on exactly the same activity. From an overall performance point of view, the company generated the same revenue, the same number of conversions, but each of those reports could lead to wildly different decisions. So we can see how important attribution models can be in guiding the decisions that we make. So you might be thinking, okay, what attribution model should I use? Well, I think it depends on what your aims are. I think sometimes we try and pick the attribution model that suits the behavior, for example, but I think ultimately the attribution model you pick can lead you or clients to making certain decisions. Some of them might suit the overall business goals and some of them might not. I'm not going to go into technical detail over each of the models. If you want that, please definitely speak to our data team. But what I am going to do is give a quick overview on each model and potentially when you should or shouldn't use it and how they guide kind of our decisions. So Starting with last click, which has historically been the default for most reporting platforms, and I think still a large number of our clients use this attribution model at the moment. It gives all the credit to the last interaction before converting. And because it gives all the credit to one channel and only the last session in which the conversion happened, it devalues any activity that generated awareness or consideration. This is good if you want to be incredibly cautious, potentially, and only target users when they are ready to buy. And it will definitely favour bottom of the funnel tactics like paid search and remarketing over anything else. It might also promote good ROI from your marketing spend, but it's likely to stunt growth and show that any upper funnel or prospecting activity is less successful. So you should maybe look at this model if you want to be super cautious and have small budgets, but you probably shouldn't use it if you're looking for growth or if you have longer purchase journeys. Next is first click, the opposite of last click. So this gives all the credit to the first interaction that a user has with a site. Again, it gives all of the credit to one interaction, but this time devalues the activity that actually drove the conversion at the end of the journey. So this is more growth orientated as a model and puts all the emphasis on activity that brings new users to the site. This will favour your prospecting activity through channels like social and display, as we saw in the example earlier. However, there's no guarantee that those users will convert. An activity that encourages users through the purchase journey will be given no credit. So you may use that model if you want to focus on growth and user acquisition over ROI maybe, but again, you should probably avoid it if your typical purchase journey is longer than a single session. Now, both first click and last click are single channel attribution models, and I assume that every conversion was due to a single channel or piece of activity. And I think that's rarely the case. I think if you think back to the last thing you bought online, or things that you buy regularly online, you probably had a couple of different stages there. You probably became aware of a product or service. You probably did a bit of research, and then at the end you maybe came back and bought it. I think that example is likely to be longer for more considered purchases or higher ticket items like maybe a holiday or a car, and maybe quicker and shorter for less considered purchases like consumables or low cost items. And no business is the same, but I think it's unlikely that you'll want to give all of your marketing credit to a single channel or piece of activity. So there are a few more attribution models that we could look at. Time decay. Time decay shares the credit out across all touch points, but gives more credit to the later interactions in the purchase journey. If you're currently using last click and finding it difficult to move away from that for any reason, this might be the logical next step. It still devalues upper funnel prospecting activity, but at least it gives them some credit. It also promotes relationship building, so bringing users back for repeat visits. And you may wish to use it if you have longer purchase journeys or sell high value items that take a lot of consideration, but you may want to avoid it if you want to if reaching new audiences is a priority. Linear is probably the least biased of all of the models and assumes each interaction played an equal part. However, it promotes participation over engagement and action, and it will hide any poor performing campaigns that generated low value traffic or low engagement. But it's potentially the most risk averse model, essentially spreading that credit evenly. It might be useful if you feel all touch points have equal value, which may or may not be true, but it isn't great at highlighting which activity is outperforming other pieces of activity. Position-based gives more credit to the first and the last click, and less to the sessions in between. So this model values both activity that drove new user acquisition and activity that drove the final conversion, which promotes both growth and ROI equally. It does, however, devalue any nurturing activity in the middle of the journey that might have brought users back during their research phase. So it might be a useful model if you're typically seeing multiple touch points before conversion, but there might be a better model if you have a complex product that requires a lot of research. And then lastly, data-driven. Data-driven's unique in that it looks at past performance and user behavior to inform how conversions are attributed. This in theory should be the most accurate representation of what's actually driving performance. However, to use it, you need to be an Analytics 360 customer, and you have to have at least 400 conversions in the last 28 days. So it's not a viable solution for everyone, all of our clients. If you can afford Analytics 360 and have a high conversion volume, go for it. The only downside really is that there's a cost involved. To round up, I'd like to steal a quote from the data team that I often use, from George Box, that all models are wrong, but some are useful. which is true. I think each model will report on the exact same results through a different lens. So it's super important to understand what you're looking at and how that might affect the marketing decisions that we make. If you're currently using an attribution model and you don't know why, you probably need to think about it. What are your business goals? Which of the models best represents your aim and purchase journey of your customers, and compare the different results? It might be time for a change. Thanks.